So I think the experience of being a part of the Harvest Kitchen was somewhat kind of like, well, I'm performing a duty, I'm doing a good deed to try to help people out. And I think that's initially kind of the expectation that I had, or the focus that I had on the evening. And I think that first evening kind of blew that out a little bit and started to get a picture of what really we could do with this within the community. Sitting around the table, the people wanted to have conversation. You could tell that they were interested in more than just the food. I think their experience was getting very little of that kind of relationship, but you could tell that they were looking for it. And so when you would walk around and have a bit of a conversation, they were willing to talk. They were willing to share. They wanted to get to know who you were. And we wanted to get to know who they were. And I think that was different from what they've ever experienced.
It changed my perspective in knowing that even existed out there. That was some stuff that, hearing some of those tough things about addiction and mental health and homelessness and how that cycle kind of continues, it wasn't anything that I was familiar with. So it started to open my eyes a little bit. Like God was opening my eyes to some of those difficulties and changing in my heart to be more compassionate towards someone who might have those things in their life that I didn't immediately identify with.
So we had them in, and I realized very quickly that potato salad was not a hit, so I haven't made that since. But we had them around our table. We had some great laughs, some conversation, some awkward silences, and overall it was a great experience. I also remember one specific moment. One of my friends was sitting back, and I had said, "Go help yourself." It was a buffet style. "Go help yourself." And he said, "I always go last." I said, "Well, you're my guest. You need to go first." He said, "Back home, I always let everyone else go first, and then I take what's left. I have to make sure that they have enough food." And it struck me at that moment. I have never once thought about if my kids were going to have enough food. And here was someone, a friend of mine, in my house, telling me that that's something that he thinks about. It was an eye-opening experience for me.
So I just decided to, one day in the early meetings, to just go and sit at a table, and it happened to be the table with Dwayne at it, and we struck up a conversation. He's very open, very talkative, speaks his mind really clearly, and doesn't hide behind anything, which is good. So we've had some really interesting conversations about all kinds of things. And then after sitting there with a number of times, he said to me, "So we haven't scared you away yet from the table?" And I said, "What do you mean by that?" He said, "Well, some of the other volunteers, we've scared them away from the table because they've been too open and too talkative." And I said, "Well, no, I don't feel threatened in any way. It's just great to be able to sit here and have a conversation." And it got to the point where he even said, "Well, if you want to go to the Collective Kitchen, if you go, I'll go with you." And so we went, and it was a fantastic night. He was just so excited, so enthralled with the whole evening of just cooking meals and making food and taking home some stuff, and it was just a fabulous night, and we had a great time. And so it's just been a real blessing just to get to know him and his wife Tammy, and it's really been good.
Everybody brings their own trauma to the table, right? We've all had difficulties in life. So while I may not have understood addiction, I know what it's like to feel lonely. I know what it's like to feel desperation. I know what it's like to feel depressed. So that's the part that I can connect. Those were where it was connecting. It wasn't about the addiction, because that's just that's an issue, and homelessness is an issue, obviously. But compassion for another person who feels broken, just like I am. That's where the connection was starting to forge, starting to get that relational equity with someone. Because actually, deep down, we're just people, and it took that prompting from God to kind of reshape everything and have that new lens to look through.